we are going to see how much of this I can do in a single take with minimal editing because I'm about to leave. Hey, it's Cecil, and it's Monday, and we are finally back with a ship talk that is just a ship talk, no lore attached. So it probably won't be as long as the God Kings video, but also we're talking about Kaveh and Alhaitham, who have been flooding my mind recently, so there's always the non-zero possibility that this takes us a long time. We'll find out. This is a ship talk that I've had outlined for literally years, and I finally have the required inspiration and motivation to tackle it. And by inspiration and motivation, I mean I need a video to go up today. And this one was already pretty much set to go, and I trust myself to talk about them because I have been rotating them in my mind like a microwave for long enough at this point. Anyways, so we've got a PowerPoint. I'm gonna ramble. It's gonna be a fun time. I'm gonna barely edit this video, and it's going to be fine. Let's get into it. Kaveh and Alhaitham. The Dendro Boys. Very much a ship at first sight introduction. When we meet Kaveh, it's at the end of the Sumeru Archon quests, like very end post notes. And right away, he and Alhaitham are bickering. They're in each other's faces, and what can I say? When fictional characters are fighting passionately, I just think that they probably want to kiss a little. And every subsequent interaction that they've had since then has reaffirmed that I think they want to kiss a little. Things we learn. They live together in Alhaitham's house. Kaveh is an architect. They have very clashing personalities at first glance. But after doing more of their stories, things that hit differently rewatching that scene. Kaveh telling, or Alhaitham telling Kaveh that when he was gone, that he was gone when Sumeru needed him most. And like, don't get me wrong, I think having another ally on the team would have been helpful and great, but also I don't know what specific skills Kaveh would have brought to the coup. Like, it kind of feels like he was gone when Alhaitham needed him most, but maybe I'm just gay. This came back, though, in the recent Archon quest, which really vindicates me, because Kaveh was so, like, at the end of that, when they're standing on top of the mausoleum of King Deshret, and Kaveh's like, so on a scale of 1 to 10, like, how would you rate your world-saving experience with me versus without me? It's so... that felt important in the moment, and then it felt more important going back to it, and then it came back around. So I'm like, yeah, this is... Perhaps Alhaitham likes working with Kaveh, even if Kaveh takes some time to like working with Alhaitham. It's so much more than enemies to lovers, and that's what makes it fun. Kaveh and Alhaitham were not always bickering. Debating, maybe, but not necessarily fighting. Kaveh is a year or two older than Alhaitham, who enrolled at a later date than most his age, and they met while they were both still students at the academia. They met in the library and would talk sometimes because Kaveh saw Alhaitham sitting by himself and was like, oh my goodness, my poor junior, he must be sitting there because he's shy and new and doesn't know anybody, and started talking to him, and Alhaitham was like, nah, I'm sitting alone because I don't like anybody. Them's the breaks. And so very quickly they became friends. Due to the rigorous work and trying to keep up with other geniuses, nope. So eventually this friendship leads to starting a group project together, which involves other students. The work is very rigorous, as is trying to keep up with the work pace of two geniuses, and the other students start to drop out of the group because they can't keep up. Kaveh took on a lot of the work to try to help and lessen the load. of the other students, and Alhaitham thought that was a pointless endeavor that ultimately wasn't going to help anyone. It was only a matter of time before they were the only two left working on the project. So eventually, the stress and personal disagreements turn into full blown arguments, and the pair quit the project and part ways. So, more about Alhaitham. Alhaitham was orphaned at a young age and raised by his paternal grandmother, who was also a Kashawar scholar. From her, he learned about his parents working at the academia, his father, a Haravatat mentor, and his mother, a renowned scholar of Ahmana. He also learned that his father, like him, had a great love of books. When he was 7, his grandmother suggested he start school early. He spent half a day at the academia before deciding the courses, and the people were boring. So instead, he taught himself reading through his grandmother's hard copy library. He prefers the books over the Akasha. Books are inflexible and rigid, so once they're published, there might be mistakes. Alhaitham seems to find value in the need to question information and knowledge, and books having the ability to go out of date helps him keep his analytical skills sharp. Ask questions rather than taking everything in the Akasha at face value. Definitely analogous to don't trust everything you hear on the internet. And when I wrote this, ChatGPT wasn't even really much of a thing. And now it is. And now it's like, damn, yeah. You should probably do your own research instead of asking a machine to synthesize literally everything that's ever been said on the internet, because it does not have the skill of discernment. The Akasha had the skill of discernment, but it also was affected by institutional racism. Also like AI. Look at that. After Alhaitham's grandmother passed away, he inherited her properties and her library. It's after this that he applies to the academia and passes the Haravatat entrance exam and begins his studies. So, some of his general philosophies: he cares about other people, argue with the wall. He cares about other people. His actions prove this time and time again. But much like putting on your own oxygen mask in a plane, first, he takes care of himself before helping others, because you're no use to others if you're dead. He sees the way that language is used as a tool of social norms and expectations, and for him, using sarcasm is just one way to subvert language against its original purposes. This guy being like, I'm a sarcastic piece of shit, as rebellion. And it's like, yeah, this is how you overthrow the government. He doesn't care much about labels given by other people. He knows he's different. He knows he's a born genius. He takes it in stride. He sees no point trying to conform to ordinary people or their expectations of him as a genius. This comes across as being dismissive of ordinary people, and maybe sometimes he is, a little bit. And also, work smarter, not harder. He doesn't go above and beyond, doesn't care to rise above expectations, and isn't particularly ambitious. He does what needs to be done to live a comfortable and simple life, and reads his free time reading and obtaining more knowledge. Something that his grandmother had instilled in him before she died was basically like, hey, you're a genius, which kind of sets you up with the potential to be a real dick sometimes. So what I need you to do is shut your mouth and observe other people and never let yourself think that you know it all, because you don't. That's not possible. So, he does a pretty good job living up to that, in my opinion. Now, Kaveh was born to a Ratawahist father and a Kashawar mother, also an accomplished architect. Kaveh inherited their genius and was interested in architectural design from a very young age. He and his parents used to assemble block puzzles together, and it was a very loving home environment, but it was also very quiet. The quiet cooperation was sort of what he associated with the feeling of home. And then 20 years ago, give or take, his father went to do humanitarian work in the desert and died, saving others from quicksand. And Kaveh blames himself for this, even now at his big age. His father was depressed after competing in the Interdarshan Championship, which drove him to doing more charity wise. And Kaveh, thinking he had encouraged his father to join the competition, so he believes that it's his fault that his father was in the position to die. He thinks, or at least he thought, that the depression was as a result of losing in the Interdarshan Championship. And we do later find out in his event that it was, in fact, not about losing, but more so that he came into contact with, like, the most bummer personified, like, just all around nihilistic, guess I'll kill myself energy from this guy. So, really, it's that guy's weird philosophies that bummed his dad out so bad and made him think, like, no, gotta commit to the ideals, gotta do altruism. But Kaveh is still like, well, he never would have run across that guy if I hadn't told him to do the championship. Like, what can you do? And he also blames himself for his mother's all-consuming grief that followed. A short time after all of this, when he reached schooling age, which I'm assuming is between 8 and 10 because Alhaitham starting at 7 was early, he was accepted into the academia. With Kaveh no longer home to keep her company, his mother started taking more frequent trips to Fontaine. Because of his grief and guilt over his father's death, Kaveh always puts his own needs last. If he and another person were dying of thirst and there was only one glass of water, he'd give the glass of water to the other person instead of, like, splitting the glass of water. In group project settings in the academia, he often took on more responsibility than those working with him, so they wouldn't feel overwhelmed and overworked. And since he was a genius, it seemed fair. He had the capability to do more, so he would do more. But also, guess how overwhelmed and overworked he is all of the time. He is also hyper empathetic and driven by his creative visions. He's known to spend his own money if a project is going over the client's budget. The Palace of Alcazazare. He can be a little bit gullible, in Alhaitham's opinion at least. Once he donated money to help impoverished children get access to medical care, but healthcare is free in Sumeru. So, you know, sometimes he can get a little bit swept up in a sob story. I do think he genuinely cares about other people and would be an altruist even without the morality OCD that seems to plague him, but he just might have been, a little less self-destructive and self-sacrificial. His notable achievements include the Palace of Alcazazare, renovating the lighthouse in Port Ormos, improving the elevator system in Port Ormos, and I believe he also did renovations on the second level of Lombard's Tavern. So, the falling out. As mentioned earlier, during their group project, Kaveh continuously took on more responsibilities as other students became overwhelmed or dropped out of the project, and Alhaitham is perceptive as fuck because his grandmother said, hey, observe. His tendency to hang back and observe others has made him very annoying. Alhaitham tells Kaveh that taking on more responsibility just because he's a genius isn't going to help the other students. It's not their fault that they have to work harder, and that's not even necessarily a bad thing. That's just the way the dice rolls sometimes. Kaveh thinks that's a selfish point of view and an excuse to do less work. Alhaitham then also tells Kaveh that he's not motivated by genuine altruism, he's motivated by a sense of guilt and trying to make cosmic amends for his perceived role in his father's death. And I firmly believe that Alhaitham's intention in telling him that was like, hey, losing sleep and skipping meals, trying to do 5 people's work for this group project is not going to bring your father back from the dead or your mother from Fontaine, so please don't work yourself to death. Um, but when they met, it was very recent to when Kave's mother fucked off to Fontaine permanently. So he was kind of like, yeah, get the fuck out of my life and never talk to me again. Which, valid crash out, really. Can't blame him for that one. Now, do they still fight all of the time? My guess is no. Most of the times we walk into relatively chill movement moments between them, like in Alhaitham's story quest. They're casual and conversational. There's a lot of teasing and bickering, but we don't see a lot of actual fights. From this, my assumption is that while they still butt heads and frustrate each other, they're at least on the path to making amends and becoming friends again, if not already there. More recent game events and quests seem to point to them already being most of the way there and being close again, and the recent Archon quest showed that they still needed to talk, but everything seems about as resolved as it can get there, I think. So, we love to see it. The reconciliation started when Kaveh needed to move in. Which brings us to signs Alhaitham cares about Kaveh, which was a lot easier to write than the following slide. Number 1, they're falling out. Alhaitham's blunt, but the sentiment behind that fight, as I said, seems to be founded in a frustration that Kaveh doesn't take care of himself, with a little side of, stop blaming yourself for your father's death, you were literally 7. Number 2 is the fact that he lets Kaveh stay with him and has Kaveh paying rent, which sounds backwards, but hear me out. Kaveh doesn't feel like he deserves kindness without conditions from other people. He would have fought Alhaitham on just doing something nice for him with no expectations of anything in return. And Alhaitham did consider experimenting with that, letting Kaveh stay for free, which would have been both make Kaveh accept unconditional kindness and try out doing something nice for someone just to be nice, but he decided he didn't really care about the answer at that moment. When Alhaitham found Kaveh in the tavern, he was completely destitute after losing his life savings and amounting incomprehensible debt for building the Palace of Alcazazare. And Alhaitham opened up his home for reasons that he puts in his character stories as Kaveh's a familiar face. Both of them are without familial attachments. And he genuinely feels like living with Kaveh, living with another genius, interacting with someone who contradicts his worldview in so many ways makes him a better, more well-rounded person and makes him see the world in ways that he would never be able to on his own. Which is intense as hell. And number 3 is the way that Alhaitham riles Kaveh up when he's getting too in his head. The example that I had when I first made this PowerPoint was in Kaveh's Hangout event, but it's become more of a pattern. In the Hangout event, Kaveh is feeling down. We go with him to the house of Dana. We see Alhaitham, and Alhaitham is like, hey, one of the librarians decided that the books that you had annotated needed to be put in the back because they were messy and complicated, and no one's going to read all that. And Kaveh was like, what? What do you mean? My annotations are great. Fuck you. And he goes and he finds it and finds in the margins that some people were actually being like, oh, thanks. This helped me understand this passage more. And it cheers him up because, and it's just like, You can't look at me and tell me that Alhaitham didn't know and do that very much on purpose. And now that we've seen more examples of it, particularly in the recent Archon quest, even Kale notes that when Alhaitham pisses off Kaveh, it seems to actually make Kaveh feel better and regain his confidence. So there's definitely an intention to it beyond just, oh, I'm going to get on his nerves for fun, you know? This slide is shorter. Don't worry about it. Signs that Kaveh cares about Alhaitham. In Alhaitham's story quest, even after their bit of bickering back and forth, well, having said all that, are you okay? Because, everything that just happened, and yeah, there was threats to lives with all of that. And no matter how much Alhaitham frustrates him, and no matter how much Kaveh refuses to let him closer a lot of the time to be best friends again, he still has. I mean, he cares about everybody, and no matter what he tries, everybody continues to include Alhaitham. And then in Layla's event last year, when I believe Sethos had been like, the renowned light of Kasharawar, or whatever. And Kaveh was like, but wait, why am I renowned and not him? He's just as famous as Sino, Dia, or Nilu. It's so. Because Alhaitham was obviously not going to be like, actually, I also overthrew the government, because Alhaitham is like, if people can forget that I was involved in doing something, that'd be stellar. Whereas Kaveh is like, hey, he may not be ambitious, and he may be a real dick, but damn if he didn't save God and overthrow the government. And Alhaitham is not the only person Kaveh has ever met with a life philosophy that is starkly different from his own, but he is the only person Kaveh seems so angry with about it, because I think when he sees parts of Alhaitham's philosophy, it feels more like an attack on Kaveh and his values and who he is as a person, rather than just a philosophical disagreement. And then, even though Kaveh did not want to be working with Alhaitham necessarily during Truth Among the Pages of Piranha and all of that Archon quest, it's clear that he still very easily fell into the pattern of taking care of my junior and making sure that you have had water, and hey, should I cook us up some food, and you know, the general cooperation. For that to have worked, Kaveh had to be okay with the fact that he still cares. And ultimately, in the end of the day, he didn't stop being friends with Alhaitham because he stopped caring. He stopped being friends with Alhaitham because he didn't like the feeling of being perceived that hard. Because, as a student, I don't think he was ready for it. There's a terrifying level of intimacy and vulnerability in being seen with the fatal accuracy with which Alhaitham could see him, you know? But nowhere in that was it a ceasing of caring. Now, some domestic bullshit worth mentioning. There's so many times that we've seen, just like little snippets, and it's just Kaveh talking to Alhaitham about his day. And Alhaitham's like half listening, but he does catch the important stuff, and he's not just sitting there silently reading, you know? There's the and the prompting questions and all of that. Marak, Kaveh's toolbox, responds to Alhaitham's voice as well, not just Kaveh's. Um, they are co parenting that toolbox, Your Honor. Particularly with Layla's event. With the no, it's not that I want to help Layla with whatever happened in the desert. I just think maybe constructs get homesick too. And Kavi's like, is this what we are going with? We are going with I'm not a good person. I just think our robot is homesick. That's what we're going with right now. It was so that event was great. I really felt like I was at my peak reading Alhaitham's micro expressions. um, that was wonderful. The squabbles about decorations in their house, which is that they do not appreciate each other's tastes in decoration. Alhaitham purposefully buys things that Kaveh will think is ugly because he thinks it's funny. Um, and he also will just give Kaveh a hard time about his paintings or, you know, scrolls or whatever that are presented in the house and just, you know. But the fact that they both have decorations and they both squabble about it, but ultimately the decorations stay up, that's just domestic. And then cleaning up their house in the aftermath of Act 10. Um, just that moment of like, Alhaitham being like, you know what? If your philosophy isn't going to kill you, if you're going to feel content in the choices you've made, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you have found your path in life. And Kaveh is like, why would you say that to me right now? What's happening? Um, and just helping with cleaning up. The little gesture of maybe I will finally go with that experiment and be nice to you without expectation of anything and see just how we both handle it. Because we've grown, we've changed, you know? So, yeah. In conclusion, even though Alhaitham has a reputation of being the less expressive and emotive one, it was so much easier to find proof of how much he cares about Kaveh. Professional rage baiter by day and professional yearner by night. Also, important to remind everyone that Kaveh's fuse is shortest with Alhaitham, and pretty much any other time he's lost his temper has been when he's pushed to the very end of his rope in some way or another. He's very good at looking for the best in people and assuming people are not trying to be hurtful, you know? Kaveh thinks Alhaitham thinks his philosophy is stupid and that other people don't deserve to be helped this much, but Alhaitham thinks that Kaveh can make his own choices, but holy shit, please stop almost dying, you self-sacrificing bastard. Guy with zero anxiety, and you are still making him worry about you. So, food for thought. Yeah. And then Thoth talking about the God Kings, like, yeah, their love for each other ultimately brought about the downfall of their civilizations. And Alhaitham's like, yeah, for sure. I get that. That whole thing. Also unrelated, but Thoth and Sebek mansplaining my lore talk from earlier this year to me, unappreciated. Okay, they are so lucky we let them out of Aru. I think we could have done it while keeping them in there, personally. But you know what? It's fine. They've done their sentence. They've served their time. They're ready to reintegrate into society, and I'm okay with it. I've made my peace. It's fine. And that covers the lore talk. I the ship talk. I know what I'm doing right now. And you know what? It's not even as long as it could have been. We're only at 30 minutes, which is great. I am going to throw an intro and outro on this bad boy, and then I'm gonna call it. So, thank you so much for watching. I wish I could do a much more thorough breakdown of both of their characters, but we just don't have time for that. And honestly, I'm already writing a 20 chapter fan fiction related to their canon story. So check that out on my AO3, which is linked in the description box below. Share this video with someone who might enjoy it. And if you have not done so yet, subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.